In the shadows of World War II, a hidden financial network stretched across the Atlantic, connecting American corporate giants to the heart of Nazi Germany, while the United States publicly stood against Hitler's regime. Behind closed doors, a different story unfolded, one of profit, complicity, and moral compromise. As Hitler's power grew in the 1930s, several major American companies saw not a threat, but an opportunity. Ford and General Motors, titans of the automotive industry, weren't just selling cars to German civilians. Their German subsidiaries, Ford Work and Opel, were churning out military vehicles and equipment for the Nazi war machine. These factories, operating on German soil, often relied on forced labor, a chilling reminder of the human cost behind corporate balance sheets. But the automotive sector wasn't alone in its entanglement with the Third Reich. IBM, through its German subsidiary Declassified, supplied punch card technology that would prove crucial for the Nazi regime. These machines, seemingly innocuous tools of data processing, became instruments of genocide. They streamlined census operations, tracking, and the logistics of mass murder with cold efficiency. As we delve deeper into this web of corporate collaboration, we find the banking sector playing a pivotal role. Chase Manhattan Bank, now part of JP Morgan Chase, facilitated currency exchanges that funneled millions into Nazi coffers. These transactions, cloaked in the language of neutral business operations, effectively bankrolled Hitler's ambitions. The list of American companies profiting from Nazi Germany reads like a who's who of corporate America. Coca-Cola, Eastman Kodak, and Standard Oil all found ways to maintain their German market share, even as the specter of war loomed large. These weren't isolated incidents or oversight. They represent a pattern of prioritizing profit over principle, of business as usual in the face of rising tyranny. It's easy to dismiss these actions as mere business decisions, made in a time of official neutrality. But the reality is far more complex and troubling. These American corporations weren't just passive observers or reluctant participants. They were, in many ways, financial lifelines for the Nazi regime, providing crucial resources and technology right up until the outbreak of war. The vehicles rolling off Ford and GM production lines in Germany weren't just cars. They were the wheels that would carry Hitler's armies across Europe. IBM's punch card machines weren't simply office equipment, they were the tools that made the Holocaust's chilling efficiency possible. And every dollar exchanged through American banks was another dollar in Hitler's war chest. As we uncover these hidden connections, we're forced to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of corporate responsibility and the true cost of profit. Can a company claim innocence when its products are used for mass murder? Is there such a thing as neutral business in a time of moral crisis? But the story doesn't end with corporate complicity. As we pull back the curtain on this dark chapter of history, we find an even more startling revelation: the personal financial backers of Hitler himself. Who were these shadowy figures, and how deep did their connections run? The trail leads us to some of America's most prominent banking families and institutions. Prescott Bush, father and grandfather to two U.S. presidents, was a director of Union Banking Corporation, a bank later seized under the Trading with the Enemy Act for its ties to Nazi Germany. The Warburg family, with branches on both sides of the Atlantic, found themselves caught between their Jewish heritage and their banking interests in Germany. These weren't just casual investors or unwitting participants. They were key players in a complex financial network that helped prop up the Nazi regime. Through a series of holding companies, shell corporations, and international banking channels, American money flowed into German industry and, by extension, into Hitler's coffers. The scale of this financial support is staggering. Millions of dollars, billions in today's terms, crossed the Atlantic, fueling German rearmament and industrial expansion. This wasn't just business. It was the lubrication of the Nazi war machine, done with full knowledge of where the money was going and what it would be used for. As we trace these money flows, animated lines stretching from New York to Berlin, we're confronted with the stark reality of how interconnected global finance truly is. Money, it seems, knows no borders and recognizes no enemies, only opportunities. But what of accountability? In the aftermath of World War II, as the full horror of the Holocaust came to light, how did these American financiers and corporations reckon with their role in enabling Nazi Germany? The answer, in many cases, is that they didn't, at least not fully. While some assets were seized and some individuals faced questioning, the vast majority of these companies and banks emerged from the war relatively unscathed. They rebranded, restructured, and in many cases continued to thrive in the post-war economic boom. The money that had flowed east now flowed back, profits laundered by time and selective memory. This lack of real accountability raises profound questions about corporate responsibility and the long shadow of historical complicity. How do we balance the needs of business with moral imperatives? Can companies ever truly make amends for past wrongs? Or do we simply move on, allowing the relentless march of commerce to erase uncomfortable truths? As we reflect on this hidden history, we're left to grapple with its implications for our own time. In an era of global corporations and international finance, how do we ensure that profit doesn't come at the expense of human rights and dignity? What safeguards can we put in place to prevent history from repeating itself? The story of American money in Nazi Germany serves as a stark reminder that financial decisions have real-world consequences. It challenges us to look beyond balance sheets and quarterly reports, to consider the broader impact of how and where we do business. In the end, this isn't just a story about the past. It's a cautionary tale for the present and a call to vigilance for the future. As we face our own moral crossroads and global challenges, we must remember that money may claim neutrality, but its power shapes the course of history. The question now is, what will we do with that knowledge? How will we ensure that the pursuit of profit doesn't once again lead us down a dark path? As the echoes of history remind us, the choices we make in boardrooms and banking halls can have consequences that reverberate for generations. In closing, we're left with a final, haunting question. In the face of tyranny and injustice, can there ever truly be such a thing as neutral business? Or are we all, in some way, responsible for the world our money builds? Behind the corporate curtains of America, a hidden story unfolds, one that challenges our understanding of World War II's darkest chapter. While the United States publicly stood against Nazi Germany, a select group of American financiers and corporations quietly fueled Hitler's rise to power. This is the money trail no one talks about, a web of profits and power that crossed the Atlantic and shaped history from the shadows. As we delve into this murky world of high finance and global politics, we uncover a tale of greed, complicity, and moral ambiguity. Our journey begins with the bustling factories of 1930s Germany, where American-made machines hummed alongside swastika-adorned banners. These were not just any factories, they were the engines of Hitler's war machine, built with American ingenuity and, more importantly, American capital. Consider the case of IBM, whose punch card machines streamlined the horrific logistics of the Holocaust, or Ford and General Motors, whose German subsidiaries churned out vehicles for the Nazi war effort. These corporations didn't just sell to Germany, they invested heavily in its industrial might, even as storm clouds gathered over Europe. But the true depth of American involvement goes far beyond factory floors. It reaches into the marble halls of Wall Street, where elite bankers played a deeper, more insidious role. Scholars like Anthony Sutton have painstakingly uncovered links between prestigious financial institutions and Nazi-era financing. The evidence points to a startling conclusion. Some of America's most respected banks may have helped bankroll Hitler's ascent. At the center of this financial web sits the Union Banking Corporation, a seemingly innocuous entity with an explosive secret. Its director, none other than Prescott Bush, grandfather of future President George W. Bush. Documents seized under the Trading with the Enemy Act reveal that UBC handled funds tied to Fritz Thyssen, a prominent German industrialist and early Hitler supporter. The implications are staggering. In 1942, as American soldiers prepared to face the Nazi war machine, the U.S. government seized UBC under suspicion of enemy collaboration. The bank's American directors found themselves uncomfortably close to treason's shadow. Yet this was just the tip of the iceberg. Enter the mysterious Sidney Warburg manuscript, a document so explosive it was quickly suppressed. Its contents: allegations of millions in secret American funding funneled to Hitler between 1929 and 1933. While later withdrawn due to forgery concerns, the manuscript's claims align disturbingly well with other evidence of Wall Street's Nazi ties. Sutton's meticulous research goes further, highlighting how banking giants like J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Chase, and Manhattan Bank became key financiers of German rearmament. Through a labyrinth of international transactions and shell companies, American capital flowed into the coffers of the Third Reich. But why? What drove these titans of finance to back a regime that would become synonymous with evil? The answers are as complex as they are unsettling. For some, it was pure profit motive. Nazi Germany represented a lucrative investment opportunity. Others may have seen Hitler as a bulwark against communism, a force that threatened their capitalist interests. Whatever their reasons, the result is clear. Hitler's ascent was shored up by hidden financial channels. some of them undeniably American. It's a sobering reminder that money speaks quietly, but its echoes can finance the darkest chapters of history. As we grapple with this legacy, we must ask ourselves, what responsibility do financiers bear when their money backs tyranny, knowingly or not? The answer isn't simple, but it's one we must confront. Our story doesn't end with Hitler's defeat. The echoes of these financial entanglements reverberate through the decades, shaping geopolitics in ways we're only beginning to understand. From the Cold War to modern-day conflicts, the intersection of high finance and global power continues to write history from the shadows. Consider the post-war careers of those implicated in Nazi financing. Many went on to positions of immense influence, their past conveniently forgotten. The very systems that allowed money to flow to Hitler remained largely intact, ready to serve new masters and new agendas. But there's hope in uncovering these hidden histories. By shining a light on the darkest corners of our past, we arm ourselves with knowledge. We learn to question the narratives handed down to us, to look beyond the surface of global events and ask, who profits? Who pulls the strings? As we close this chapter of hidden history, we're left with more questions than answers. How much of our world is shaped by unseen financial forces? What modern-day Hitlers might be rising on the back of today's global capital? And most importantly, what can we as citizens, as humans do to ensure that money serves humanity, not tyranny? The story of Hitler's American backers is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a stark reminder of the power of money to shape destinies, to build empires or fuel nightmares. It challenges us to look deeper, to question more, and to hold those with financial power accountable for the worlds they create. As the echoes of the past fade into the noise of the present, one truth remains clear: money may claim neutrality, but its power decides world destinies. The question is, whose destiny will it decide next? And will we be vigilant enough to notice before it's too late? In the end, this isn't just a story about Hitler, or America, or even World War II. It's a story about us, about human nature, greed, and the choices we make when profit and principle collide. As we face the challenges of our own era, from climate change to rising authoritarianism, the lessons of this hidden history have never been more relevant. So the next time you hear about a far-off conflict or a rising political movement, ask yourself, who stands to gain? Follow the money, and you might just uncover the next chapter in this ongoing saga of power, profit, and the shaping of human destiny. The curtain may have fallen on Hitler's Reich, but the stage remains set. The players have changed, but the game goes on. Will we be spectators, or will we demand a new script? The choice, as always, is ours. As the dust settled on World War II, a chilling truth emerged from the rubble of Europe. While America publicly stood against Nazi Germany, powerful U.S. corporations and financiers had quietly fueled Hitler's rise to power. From car factories churning out military vehicles to punch card machines tracking Holocaust victims, American money flowed across the Atlantic, shaping history from the shadows. The story begins with industrial giants like Ford and General Motors. These household names weren't just selling cars to average Americans, they were building war machines for the Nazi regime. In 1938, Hitler awarded Henry Ford the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, the Nazis' highest honor for foreigners. Meanwhile, GM's Opel plants in Germany produced trucks, bomber engines, and land mines for the Wehrmacht. But it wasn't just about vehicles. IBM's German subsidiary Declassified provided the punch card technology that streamlined the Holocaust. These machines, leased and serviced by IBM throughout the war, allowed the Nazis to efficiently catalog, track, and ultimately exterminate millions of Jews and other victims. As factories hummed with activity, a more insidious network of financial support took shape. American banks played a crucial role in funneling money to the Nazi regime. J.P. Morgan and Chase National Bank, now JPMorgan and Chase, were implicated in handling funds for Nazi Germany even after war broke out. The Union Banking Corporation, where Prescott Bush father and grandfather to future U.S. presidents served as a director, was seized in 1942 under the Trading with the Enemy Act. These weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a complex web of financial ties between Wall Street and the Third Reich. The Warburg family, with branches in both New York and Hamburg, found themselves torn between two worlds. While some family members fled Nazi persecution, others remained in Germany, maintaining business connections that bridged the widening Atlantic divide. As Allied forces pushed into Germany, they uncovered damning evidence of this transatlantic complicity. Documents revealed how American expertise and capital had been instrumental in building the Nazi war machine. The full extent of this collaboration would take decades to unravel, with historians and investigative journalists piecing together a trail of profits that led straight to the heart of corporate America. The post-war era brought a reckoning, or at least the beginnings of one. Many of these companies have since acknowledged their dark pasts. Ford and GM issued apologies for the use of forced labor in their German plants during the war. IBM has faced lawsuits and intense scrutiny for its role in facilitating the Holocaust. Chase Bank's wartime activities in occupied France have been the subject of historical investigations and public criticism. But acknowledgement is just the first step. The real challenge lies in grappling with the long-term consequences of these actions. Should modern corporations be held accountable for decisions made by their predecessors nearly a century ago? And what about the legacies of powerful families, like the Bushes, whose wealth and influence were partly built on these wartime connections? These questions aren't just academic. They strike at the heart of how we understand corporate responsibility, historical memory, and the very nature of accountability across generations. Some argue that modern companies have a moral obligation to make amends through reparations or by funding Holocaust education and remembrance efforts. Others contend that too much time has passed, and that today's corporations shouldn't be punished for the sins of long-dead executives. The debate extends beyond the boardroom. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of capitalism and war. Can businesses ever truly be neutral in times of conflict? Or does the pursuit of profit inevitably lead to moral compromises? As we uncover more details about this hidden history, we're left with a sobering realization. Money may claim to be neutral, but its power shapes destinies. The decisions made in New York boardrooms and Berlin banks had real, devastating consequences for millions of people across Europe. Today, as we face new global challenges and conflicts, the lessons of this era remain painfully relevant. Corporate entanglement with authoritarian regimes continues to make headlines. The lure of profits in morally dubious markets still tempts businesses around the world. So, what do we do with this knowledge? Will we demand a full accounting of the past, push for meaningful reparations, and insist on change? Or will we allow this chapter of history to fade into obscurity, moving on in silence? The choice is ours. But one thing is clear: unearthing the money trail is just the beginning. The real test lies in what we're willing to do with that information. Will we learn from these dark chapters of corporate complicity? Or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes, prioritizing profits over human lives? As we close this investigation, we're left with a pressing question that echoes through time. Should modern businesses own the consequences of historical profits tied to genocide? The answer may determine not just how we view the past, but how we shape our collective future. In the end, this isn't just about Hitler's American backers. It's about all of us, our values, our choices, and our willingness to confront uncomfortable truths as we face an uncertain future. The lessons of this hidden history have never been more crucial. Will we heed them, or will we allow the siren song of profit to drown out the voices of conscience once again? The clock is ticking, the world is watching, and history, as always, stands ready to judge.